Hey guys, Jesse here from LiquidSurfandSail.com. Today we're going to be showing you how to install a square hatch onto your solo skiff. This is going to allow you to access the front part of your solo skiff, giving you a little bit more storage, and we're also going to be installing the bin that goes inside of it. The bin's going to allow your items to not slide around in the front part of the boat. Okay, for this project we're going to need a couple things. Marker, I use masking tape, measuring tape, a drill bit, and a jigsaw. The first thing I like to do is to find a center line on the boat so I know where to set up the hatch. The hatch naturally comes with several drill points, and the center line is the two center drill points. So we have a center line here. Now we need to establish a center line on the boat. The easiest thing I like to do is utilize this line right here on the front hatch. I put a piece of masking tape there to draw on. I take my tape measure and put it right in front of there. From end to end is about 26 inches, so that means my midpoint would be at 13. I'll take my marker, mark off 13 right there. There is a pre-beveled area for a circular hatch. Most customers find that this hatch is too small to really be accessible while you're on the water or fishing, so that's the reason why we install these larger square hatches. What I like to do is line up my center line, and the inside of this bevel here will be the inside of where I want to cut, because I want to cut this entire circle area out, but I don't want to get off center line, and I don't want to cover up the solo logo. So what I like to do is stage the inside of this square frame right at the edge of that bevel. I will set up my center line. You can eye this out, or you can actually take measurements from the rails, about 5 inches at the first screw line, 5 inches on the second. So we're pretty much centered. So the next thing we'll do is draw the template we're going to use to cut out. Pretty straightforward. Take your marker, just hold down firm. We want to be as light as possible on our marker so we're not moving our frame. And I like to go inside of the hatch itself. That way we have more room to cut out. If we go too close to the actual frame, you might not have enough lip to establish screw holes. Okay, so now we have our stencil drawn from the interior frame that comes with the hatch. I like to just take some final measurements, the old homage measure twice, cut once. So I just do some basic ones right from the corner to the rail, or 4.5 over here, corner to the rail, 4.5. So at least we know that we're centered on the boat. So once we actually do make this final cut, we're not going to have any issues with being offset or anything like that. So the next thing we're going to do is going to take our drill. We're going to drill a pilot hole in one corner, and then take our jigsaw and start cutting around here. If you notice, this particular hatch has some of these cutouts throughout it, or these little cutouts basically. And what these cutouts are for is on the actual hatch itself. When you open it, the way it locks is with these little pins. Let me see if I can get a close-up of this. So you can see this pin that comes out every time you engage the locking system. So why this frame has them is so that there's space when this pin comes out. When it's actually locked, it has to have a space for it to come out into the boat itself. Our particular hatch is going to be installed like this, so the cutouts that we need to make are going to be the ones furthest towards the stern of the boat. So we'll make those as well. So for the front part of the hatch, we're just going to cut around and follow the generic line that runs around the hatch frame, but over here we will have to make those cutouts. Okay, so the next step is to drill a pilot hole for our jigsaw blade. You can use a drill bit. In this case, I'm using a hole drill bit. The only thing is you have to make the drill bit larger than the jigsaw blade, so the jigsaw blade has enough room to go in, pivot, and actually start going around. This pilot hole can be placed anywhere. I prefer to place it at one of the corners. That way, as I travel around, I meet it back at a corner. So in this case, I'm going to start here and drill our pilot hole. The solo skiffs are made out of polyethylene, so the drill bits are pretty easy to go through it, as will the jigsaw blade. And that's it. So the next step is we're going to start with our jigsaw blade and start cutting out this area. Okay, so now we have our pilot hole, so now we're going to start actually drilling out our frame. It's always best to err on the side of caution, not trying to go outside of this frame line. We can't add more material once we cut it out. So I like to stay a little bit inside or exactly on the line, and then we could shave off the material as we try and go into our fitting stage. So let's start cutting it out. Alright, so we have officially cut out our hatch. One of the things to watch out for too is there are tubes inside of here, so you got to watch out to make sure that these are out of the way, or at least you're not cutting too far deep. As I mentioned before, we do have these locking pins that come in and out. You can notice it over here. It comes in and out as we lock the hatch. So in order to find space for that, we will have to cut out an area here and an area here. Just slightly. You don't want to go outside of the rim of the frame, therefore you're going to expose, the area. So we want to try and stay on the inside of it. And this material, when you cut it out, is pretty thick. It starts with a top layer of polyethylene and then this kind of open cell foam material on the inside. This stuff is a little softer and this stuff is a little harder. So the goal is actually to drill out a section right about here on either side to allow that pin to jut out and lock the hatch in place. So to do that, you can do it a couple ways. You can either take a Dremel. I don't actually have a Dremel, so what we're going to be using is a jigsaw just to cut a little area out, and then we'll finish it up with a drill bit. There's one. There is two. So now we have these two little input marks, and that will allow that piece to come out. We'll do a test fit. On the test fit, I rarely find that that is usually enough. So I'll stick it in, push down a little, and it isn't enough because I can still feel the hatch clicking in to that area. So what I want to do is take the drill bit, and I'll just finish this area out a little bit. So I have my drill bit, and all we're going to do is use it as a Dremel and kind of route that area out. Alright, there's one side. There's two sides. That should be enough to allow that hatch to have those locking pins go through it. Do a quick test fit, push down on it, lock everything, and it looks like everything is running pretty smooth. So the next step is to actually start installing the bottom gasket that will go underneath the boat, and we'll put a little bead of silicone around here to water seal it. Okay, so now that we have the cutout, we want to test fit our hatch. We're going to test fit basically this rim inside of our cutout. If we did everything right, it should just slide right in. If we do need to take off any more area, I recommend doing it with a file, a very coarse file. That's the easiest way to knock that out. But I think we did a pretty good job, so let's test fit. And it does. It slides right in very good. Now I want you to take notice that there's actually a lip under here. Let me see if I can position the camera. There is a lip right here because of the way the boat actually has contour to it. Don't worry about that lip, because what's going to happen is as we drill this to the frame, that will actually pull both the boat material up and the hatch material down, and it will seal that area. Okay, the next step, once we have our hatch cut out and installed, we want to start drilling our pilot holes. Once we drill our pilot holes, we're going to need our 2-inch stainless steel screws. I find the stainless steel pan heads work the best because you do have to go through the material of the actual boat, the top hatch, and this bottom frame. So those work the best. So let's start drilling our pilot holes. You don't have to worry about too much movement if your hatch is in here tight. Just hold your hand on the top and start drilling your pilot holes. If you use a smaller diameter drill bit than you would for the screw, it helps. That way you don't have to worry about over drilling in and not catching. Not a great idea to have this on the boat. So once you drill all of the pilot holes, you can remove your hatch. You will have some plastic debris from the drill. You may want to make sure you have a clean working area. If you do have any leftover or hanging pieces of plastic, I like to use a quick file, clean that area up, make sure it's not going to get in the way. This particular job went pretty well, so there's not much on there. I just want to make sure where I'm going to screw the hatch down isn't going to have any plastic debris under the lid of the hatch. Okay, once we have our hatch fitted, the next thing we want to do is install the bottom gasket. And to install the bottom gasket, you're going to want to slide it forward towards the bow and then just twist it in position. Place the hatch on top. And I like to stage our first screw. I like to start in the centers and then move my way around. So the first screw, simply just place into the hole. We'll use our drill bit to get the pilot hole pretty much done. And what I'm looking for is I want this screw to poke out of the bottom to allow me to have a lineup point. So once we get that on screw all the way down, you want it about maybe poking out 1/4 inch, because what we're going to do is when it's poking out, we want it to hit one of these, the center hole that it's going to line up with. So once it's poking out 1/4 inch, you can also look and line it up. Once it's lined up, just hold it tight and you can proceed to drill the rest. And you should feel it catch. And we don't want to over tighten this, so to strip out the plastic, because this is self-tapping. And then once that one's in, we're going to start with the next one, which would be the front one. So the same rules apply. We're going to want to drill it until we feel it about 1/4 inch sticking out the other side. And once we feel it on into our finger, we'll line up the hatch on the other side to the corresponding hole and then continue to drill. Alright, and then once that's done, what we'll want to do is just continue along around each of the exterior holes, making sure they're lined up with the gasket on the bottom. So we'll just continue doing that. Alright, so we have the majority of the screws in now. I'm actually missing 2, so I will have to go to the hardware store and grab those extra ones. But we'll want to test fit and close our hatch, make sure it locks, and then this is pretty much done. The only thing else we have to do is slide these out of the way, these little rod holders, rod tubes, to install our bin. So once the bin is installed, it's securely in place. I just want to do one last test fit. We close the hatch, looks good. It's sealed all the way around, so we're good there. This is a done install. So now this customer has the option of utilizing the bin, or they can pull this bin out and utilize extra internal storage. Thanks guys for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, or you can give us a call at LiquidSurfandSail.com, 954-523-7778.